Well, welcome to the Joe Cortez Show here in Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world, and of course, the boxing capital of the world. Well, today we have very, very special guest. He's like a brother to me, really. We go back together. We started about the same time together back in the late 70s. Mike, not a referee, people probably the best, like undisputed ring announcer of all time, the dear friend, Michael Buffer. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
All right, brother. Anyway, we're just here to, I want the folks to know a little bit about you because they follow you all these years on HBO, Showtime, ESPN, The Zone, all the networks. You've been in so many big fights, announcing the biggest fights in boxing history. But I want the folks to know a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes, Mike Buffer. First, let me say a little bit about Mike Buffer. He was a veteran. He was in the U.S. Army back when he was 20 years of age. He was in there for 3 years and during the Vietnam era. He married to a beautiful young lady named Christine, whom I love very much because she's a sweetheart. Every time I see her ringside, the big hug and kisses is just like she's like another sister, or like a daughter. Let's say daughter maybe. uh, my Michael is just and Christine are cat lovers, dog lovers. I mean, these people, anybody who loves animals, you know they got a good heart. And Michael is definitely one of them, and Christine as well. Michael, what got you started with in boxing?
Well, I lived in Philadelphia, Joe, and in the 70s, boxing came to the state of New Jersey big time when Atlantic City opened up the casinos, which for me was a 60-minute drive.
Right.
And, I used to go to the fights occasionally and have to spend a few bucks out of my own pocket. And I'm watching a Saturday afternoon fight from Atlantic City, and ring announcer gave a split decision where after the first two judges' scores, you knew who won the fight. It took away that drama when you announce one score for one guy, one score for the other, and then a third when you go for the winner by split decision. Pause, wait for the crowd to get a dramatic ball,
Right.
and you had to give the fighter's name.
Right.
And my oldest son, Michael Patrick, was probably about 13 at the time. This was in '82, and he's like, "Dad, you could do that." And it just kind of a little light went off over my head, like in the Bugs Bunny cartoons. And I, I just figured, well, it'd be a great way to see the fights without having to pay for it. So eventually, I got my foot in the door, and it became a great way to make a living.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I first met you back in the early days of your career. You and I are pretty much the same age, and we're both good people. I know you're a good guy, and you know I'm a good guy. I mean, every time you came into that ring,
You didn't mention our age. That's okay.
you come into that ring, you came with your bow tie. Sometimes the bow tie was a little too crooked for me. For everybody else, nobody will pick on it. But I'm a stickler when it comes to. So in the middle of the ring, I would adjust the tie before we went on to live on the mic. I always love doing that because
Somebody, one of the photographers took a picture of that, of you adjusting my bow tie, and it pops up on social media now and then. It's a great picture.
yeah, it is. It is. Well, it goes to show
Yeah.
that I care for my brother, Michael. Anyway,
Thank you.
Michael, tell me now, there was some great fights that you've announced, so many of the big ones. Which was the most memorable fight in your career as a ring announcer?
One that I always recall for just being blown away by the action and the atmosphere and the surrounding story. It was in April of 1989, and Roberto Duran once again had been given up for just being out of it. He was 36 or 37. Iran Barkley had captured the middleweight title in Las Vegas with a
Right.
huge upset after he knocked out Tommy Hearns.
Exactly.
So he was middleweight champion. Barkley had already been, pardon me, Duran had already been two-time welterweight champion and junior middleweight champion. So
He, wa-
now he's
and
stepping up to the middleweight division.
he was also a lightweight champion. That's where he started as a lightweight champion.
Lightweight champion, pardon me, yeah, right?
When he beat,
Lightweight and welterweight. And
yeah, when he beat Ken
so now he's
Buchanan.
stepping up to the middleweight division.
Right.
And he was an underdog against the young, chiseled steel Iran Barkley, and man, it was just such a great fight, and it was Barkley pulled it off. Duran pulled it out in the 10th round with a 6-punch combination that swung that round to a 10-2, and he ended up with a split decision win and became middleweight world champion.
Exactly. Well, one of my memorable fights happens to be that fight as well because I was the referee that night.
I was waiting for you to jump in, Joe. I didn't want to just plug you right away, but I figured.
But I remember that Michael used to come out there at the beginning of your career. You used to say, "Man, your battle station, man, your battle station," and now your catchphrase is what? "I'm ready to rumble." Can you say it for the fans out there? Let's get ready to rumble.
Let's get ready to rumble.
There you go, Michael Buffer. Oh, man, when people hear that, the place goes crazy. It goes wild. They know they're in for a fight. You got Michael Buffer, the ring announcer. You're going to get a good night of boxing. And I show you that I just feel like sometimes I got to pinch myself, say that Mike and I came up together. We stayed close together all these years. You must have refereed of the 176 world title fights that I referee. You must have announced at least 50 of them,
Oh, yeah, a lot of them. You know what I always loved, and you're one of the reasons I sort of started this, was the fans, when we introduce judges and referees, sometimes they don't care, but referees, they usually pay attention. And so, if you remember with you, I'm pretty sure I started saying that you and Mercanti, because he has so many senior, working in his 110th world title fight.
Right.
And it gave the fans a feeling of like, oh my God, this is like one of the best referees in the world when I would say that. And that number just kept climbing and climbing every time I would introduce you, Joe. And it was for me as a fan, I'm a fan, and so are you. It was a thrill to be able to do something like that, just to say, and your referee in charge of the action, world championship veteran working for the 134th. It was great to just keep adding to that number. But I want to go back to that Barkley-Duran fight, Joe. One of the things, and this has happened many times in your career, one of the things that made that a great fight is you are a fighter's referee, and you always were. You would let the action continue. You wouldn't let the holding go on and the thing. But when it came to inside fighting, you knew what you were looking at. A lot of referees, when fighters just go, forehead to forehead without clanging foreheads, and they're working and working and working, you just let them work. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And one of the great fights, and I just came across it on social media recently, that you refereed in, was in Australia, and that was Fennick and the professor, Azuma Nelson.
Right.
In their first fight, that ended up being a draw. Everybody thought Azuma won, but man, you were on the top of your game because the infighting was maybe the best you'd ever see in a fight. Fans should go to YouTube and look that up. Azuma Nelson and Jeff Fennick won their first fight with Farrah firm Joe Cortez as referee. And you didn't use the trademark back then. Yeah. But man, that was just one of your best nights ever.
Yeah, it was one of my first fights. That's when I first moved to Las Vegas. Actually, I was not a resident of Vegas yet, but I was recruited to Las Vegas as a referee from back east from New York and Atlantic City.
Yeah.
They said, Joe, we're going to give you this fight. If you move to Vegas, these are the kind of fights you're going to get all the time. And so, yeah, because you had to be a resident to referee those big fights here back then. So they gave me that Fennick and Nelson fight at the Caesar's Palace. It was outdoors. It was like 100 degrees that day, maybe 110. It was so hot out there. And these guys, they were battling from round 1 to round 12, nonstop. I mean, I let these guys fight. They were featherweights. And, featherweights, they were real quick on their feet. They were moving all over the place. And I had to be in good shape to be moving around to keep up the pace with these fighters. That's why I tell referees, you want to be a good referee, you got to be light on your feet, quick.
Yeah.
You got to be able to stay in good physical condition, because if you let yourself get too heavy as a referee, after 3 or 4 rounds, you're pooped out. You can't move around anymore. And you got to be there.
You got to be an athlete. That's why guys like you and Larry Hazard, when he was a referee and everything, I mean, you guys were in shape, and you still are, of course. But you have to really be athletic in there and be on the balls of your feet and move in and out.
Yeah. Now, how do you come up with that phrase, like your catchphrase, let's get ready to rumble? I mean, I mean,
You know,
some angels from somewhere, because nobody had ever thought about, let's get ready to rumble. Come on. Where did that come
well,
from?
you know, when I was trying, like, let's man your battle stations and fasten your seatbelts, I was trying to come up with something that would let the fans know now you're going to meet the stars of the show. And what I mean is, and you've lived through this and everything, for years after all the fights started being on TV, coming back in the 70s and 80s, the ring announcers were introducing all their buddies on the boxing commission.
Right.
And they'd have to introduce, like in Vegas, you have a chairman and 4 members. Then you have 4 doctors and 3 judges, and of course the referee. Well, that's important.
The timekeeper.
But all those other names, and then the WBC, the WBA, the WBO, the IB, they all wanted their chairman and their supervisor introduced. Oh, it would just be out of hand if it was a unification fight,
Yeah.
especially.
Exactly.
So here we have the fighters come to the ring. It's exciting. They've got the hood on. They go like this. The hood comes off. The music is playing. The fans are going crazy. It's electric. And then the ring announcer would kill the crowd by introducing all these who the hell cares guys, right?
Right.
I mean, if you went to a football game and they introduced the entire NFL front office, everybody'd be like, hey, shut up and kick the ball, So the stars of the show, that's the guys they all want to know about. So I would try to time it after I introduce the referee, then say, have some kind of something that would get the crowd back into it for the stars, like the famous line from the Indianapolis 500, gentlemen, start your engines. Well, the place goes crazy because that means the race is going to begin.
Right.
So I wanted something to bring the fans back because they had just been flattened out and there was no atmosphere in the room anymore. And, the great Muhammad Ali, he used to say, who you know real well, he used to say, oh, I'm so pretty. I'm ready to rumble. Rumble, young man, rumble. Ah! And I started to say, let's get ready to rumble. And it's a lot different now than it was 40 years ago. But I stayed with it. It's worked out pretty well, do you think?
I think
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
you can't beat that, man. You can't beat that voice. That's a $1 billion voice. You know what I mean? that voice is unbelievable. I mean, I want to have somebody clone your voice one day so it could be, I mean, we'll make billions of dollars using that tone of voice that you have. There's nobody has a voice like yours, Michael. I mean, I know you have a brother who's also a ring announcer for the MMA, the UFC. He's done very well with that. I'm sure that you got him into the sport. He copied some of your stuff, and he's doing very well. Looks like he told us a little bit about Bruce Buffer.
He's doing great. He's literally a superstar in the world of MMA, and it's done so many things for him. And he's got products out with his face on it, and his catchphrase is "It's time," and the place goes crazy. And so it's just MMA has exploded, and he's a part of that growth with the UFC, and he's there permanently. So you can't beat that.
Well, he got to thank you for that because I'm sure that it all came from the great Michael Buffer. And Bruce is a sweetheart, nice guy and everything. And I miss seeing him as well because it's been a while. And tell me a little bit about your career. I know you were a model. You're a good-looking guy, and you were a model. You're tall. You're about 6 feet tall, 6'1". And you're slim. You're in good shape. You was a model at the beginning before you became a ring announcer, right?
Yeah, that might even be a part of what got my foot in the door because in Philadelphia and New York, and I had started to do working as a model. Then I was getting jobs and offers to do TV commercials, like local stuff, nothing national. And when my son, he said, "Dad, you could do that." I think because he knew that I was appearing on little spots here and there on TV that. It's all the same thing. Television's television, but that wasn't the case. It was pretty tough getting my foot in the door in the beginning.
Right. Well, let me tell you that talking about getting foot in the door. I mean, you got in movies like Harlem Nights, Rocky V, Play It to the Bone, Ready to Rumble, Against the Ropes. just to name a few. You also been with Top Rank, with HBO, Showtime. You've done so much. I mean, I could go on and on. The list goes on so long of all the movies that you've been in, part of. Now, you were doing something. I see lately, you've been doing some commercials I see on TV with Shaquille O'Neal, and you were in Florida. We spoke when you were in Florida. You had just finished doing a commercial with Shaquille O'Neal. How was he as an individual, one-on-one? I mean, I know him personally as well, but you spent some time with him, eating dinner and going to his home. How was Shaquille O'Neal during the time you were filming?
It was great. Shaq actually, for 3 years, owned the house across the street from Christine and I. And we never got to see him. I would see him more often at basketball games, like the All-Star game,
Right.
and the things like that. But we spent the afternoon together on that commercial shoot, and it was. He's just the best. He's so easygoing. He's so happy in his own skin. Just a great guy. And one of the fun things about that spot, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it because it ran for half a year, almost every day somewhere. We would just like ad lib and say stuff. Well, we knew what the producers and the ad agency wanted to do, but I just started like making up lines, and half of them ended up in the commercial, and that's why you actually see Shaq in the 30-second version of that spot. I say, let's get ready for chili or something like that, and it was like totally out of nowhere, and Shaq actually goes, you're like, whoa. And they left it in. It's great.
Now, what's on the horizon for you now? You're doing something with some more movies coming up in the near future?
Nothing coming up. I've got some products coming out. And Ready to Rumble energy drink is going to be available.
Ooh, okay.
USA soon. It's in Europe now. And power bars and that sort of thing, and including a vegan version. Christine and I are vegans, so we wanted to have that option available for people, and just some things. I mean, like you, Joe, I'm getting a little bit up there, and we're trying to chill out. I'm just more selective with what I do, and especially after the pandemic, it just changed a lot.
Yeah, but let me tell you one thing. You still have a little spark of the old flash. There's no stopping Mike Buffer, that's for sure. I mean, you're amazing. Tell us, how do you get involved with your dogs and cats? Tell us a little story about how did that start with you and Christine?
I had a Yorkie and a couple of cats when we met. She had 2 dogs, and then we were together, and they all started living with us. We got married, and then we got another dog, and started to get involved in different rescue foundations. Christine is a board member with the Forgotten Dog Foundation.
Wow.
And it's just something, it's part of what actually got us involved in being vegans too, because all the animal cruelty involved in supplying pork and beef and even chicken, eggs. There's a lot of brutal cruelty that goes on to the animals.
That's amazing.
It's good to have your protein and all that, but we shouldn't be so brutal toward animals that are doing it.
That's great. Well, you definitely have a good heart. I tell you, like I said before, at the beginning of the show, people who love animals definitely have a good heart. Now, talking about good hearts, when you met Christine, I know you proposed to her on the Jay Leno show. Am I correct?
That's right.
I mean, you were on the show, and how do you get to meet Christine?
There was a restaurant that sort of would become like around 11 o'clock. They would change the lighting and the service and all that, and then it became like one of the hot spots in LA. And I used to go there with I was good friends with Hugh Hefner, and he would always go there on a Friday night, and I just happened to be there when this beautiful girl walked by, and she disappeared, and then I found her again later on in that evening, and we've been together 18 years.
Well, she's an amazing young lady. I'm very, very happy to see that she found somebody good. You found somebody good, because I think you're meant for each other. I mean,
I'm a lucky guy. We always argue over who's the lucky one.
I think you're both very lucky. You both got good hearts. I know times that I've been with you guys together, she's just an amazing young lady. I mean, she sits at ringside. She's 10 times prettier than some of the ring girls that come in there. I said to myself, she should be a ringside girl, but Mike won't let her take that job. You know, she's a beauty for sure. And now you are now ready to do anything in boxing in the very near future?
Yeah, I've got a few things coming up later this year. It's I'm just a lot more selective, and you know, with the pandemic, I decided to, and because of traveling, and I'm not exactly as young as I used to be, that I figured let's work less and ask for more, and that's worked out real well. And there's some good stuff coming up. I've got some promotions and commercials coming out that I think people are going to like a lot. I can't talk about yet. We're not signed, sealed, and delivered, but some really good stuff.
You should go in the hair commercial business. I mean, I remember when you had the big, nice, beautiful black hair. Now you got your silver hair. I used to have hair, but now you can see, I don't have it anymore because I think it's too hot here in Vegas. The heat. When I came out to Vegas, the heat was so hot that my hair started falling off a little bit more and more. One day I said, you know what? Let me take it all off. I took it all off, and this is what you got. You know?
Yeah, and it's perfect timing because that man, over the last 10, 20 years, that's the look, you know, going without the hair. The closest I ever got to that was when I was in boot camp in the Army, and I didn't have too much hair.
Yeah, tell me about that. Now, talking about bald head, I mean, Shaquille O'Neal and a lot of these basketball players, these come to
Charles
the fight.
Barkley,
yeah, they all come to the fight. They all see me. Michael Jordan and you name them, they all come to all big fight fans. They come to the fights, and that's why I got to meet. They say, "Hey, Joe, come over here." They call me by my first name. I mean, these are guys that I look up to every day. Some of my heroes in sports, you know. And now they're calling me by my first name. And I'm sure that you are being a ringside announcer, being a commentator. I mean, you know that when you announce some of these celebrities at ringside, some of these movie stars like Jack Nicholson, Bruce Willis, and so many of the great ones that come to the fights all the time. You know, we get to mingle with them, and you get to say to yourself, you know, this is unbelievable. I'm sure you feel the same way. You kind of like, you got to pinch yourself sometimes to say, here I am in the mix of all these great movie stars. I'm just a nobody. I came out of nowhere, got into boxing, and opened up a lot of doors, just like it has done for you and your brother, Bruce.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, I know that because I'm sure this happens to you, that some of these guys, they'll say, hey, Joe, how you doing? Joe Cortez. And you're like, oh, my gosh, and it's some big movie star, and it's like, he knows my name, Joe. Yeah. They've been watching you for 45 years, and,
exactly.
And they know who you are. They grew up watching you. And what cracks me up is when a 50-year-old guy comes up to me and says, I've been watching you since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, oh, man, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, same thing with me, you know. But, you know, I used to love to sit down with Jack Nicholson. The security always called me and say, Joe, Jack Nicholson is asking for you. He said, can you go sit with him? He would get there early for the fights, and I would sit with him throughout the whole night before I did the main event. So I would sit with him watching the preliminary fight. We sit there for a couple of hours just chatting and talking, and he was just a sweetheart. Bruce Willis as well, and so many just great ones. And I know that Denzel Washington is another fight fan, always comes to the fight. He would call me, hey, Joe, can you come here a second? We talked a little bit, and I said to myself, wow, this is where I got the, because I have a daughter, Cindy, who was a quadriplegic from an auto accident 20-some-odd years ago. So I said, the opportunity for me to say, can you do me a favor? Can you talk to my daughter, Cindy? She's in a wheelchair. Denzel Washington took my phone one day. He walked away with my phone in the back area. He was gone for about 10 minutes talking to my daughter, Cindy. That's the kind of guy Denzel. Yeah. Bruce Willis, same thing. Jack Nicholson, they all talk to my daughter. J-Lo and Mark Anthony, all these guys, they all talk to my daughter, Cindy. I took advantage of that. And my other two daughters would say, Daddy, how come you don't let me talk to them? I said, I'm sorry, you know, Cindy's the condition that she's in, she's limited, so I want to make it a little easier for her. And one day I even had, what's his name, the actor in the wheelchair. Oh, my God. He was Superman.
Oh, yeah, Chris Reed.
Christopher Reed. Yeah. And one day I made arrangements to people that knew him that talked to my daughter Cindy. Well, she was in a hospital in rehab from her auto accident, And Christopher Reeve would call her one day and talk to her for about a half hour on the phone. It kind of encouraging her because he was telling her she was still in like maybe 2 months after her auto accident. And he would talk to her a half hour or so. It was just so nice that I was able to be in that position as a referee where I opened up a lot of doors for me to help other people like my daughter and other individuals as well. I love making contact with people where I can help them move forward or make their life easier, make it feel positive about being in this world, even though they suffer accidents or whatever. But, I went through COVID-19 and I was hospitalized for 5 months. It was tough, very difficult for me. And a lot of people called me up, a lot of individuals calling me up. And I remember talking to you on the phone a couple of times. But Mike Tyson called me up twice when he was fighting Roy Jones at an exhibition. And I was telling Mike, listen, do me a favor, okay? Good luck with that fight. I'm glad you're getting back in shape, but do me a favor. Don't hurt this guy, because if you hurt him, it's not going to happen again. You're not going to get nobody else want to fight you and put a black eye for boxing. Beat him, but don't hurt him, He said, Joe, but how can I beat somebody without hurting them? I said, you used to beat guys just by looking at them. Those guys were out on their feet. When I used to give you the instructions, I gave Mike Tyson, I hated Mike Tyson's fight. I used to give him the instructions. I would look at him, give him the instructions. I look at the other guy. The other guy, I look at him, he was like ready to pee in his pants. And these guys, they were already beat before Mike Tyson before the first bell even sounded. Now I know you referee, you announced many of Mike Tyson's fights. What were your memorable fights with Mike Tyson that you were watching at ringside?
I guess one of the most memorable ones is Spinks Tyson, and I know Michael Spinks real well, and of course I did 19 of Mike Tyson's fights, and I love both guys.
Yeah.
But while I don't actually believe most fighters at that level have fear, but they have anxiety. That adrenaline and there's I don't want to say there's a fear factor in there, but there's that anxiety of I can't let this guy hit me, and I want to get him.
Yeah.
But when Frank Cappuccino brought the two fighters together, and I know you were good friends with Frank, God rest his soul.
Yeah, I was counting for the knockdown. I was counting for the knockdown that night. So when Michael Spinks landed,
yeah, right,
he landed he landed right in front of me, and I was counting for the knockdown. And because we pick up the time, the referee picked up the count for the timekeeper, but I was a knockdown referee on the side, so I would count. And Frank Cappuccino, what happened in that first round. So that was fun.
91 seconds. But when he brought them together in the ring, I could see the difference in the two fighters. Mike was Mike, where he
right.
with the towel with the hole cut out and no socks, and he was still Mike in those days.
Yeah, he was living.
And Michael Spinks, his heart was just, and it's from anxiety. Now, I'm not going to say it was from fear, no way. But the anxiety and all that was like the biggest fight of the day. And you could see his heartbeat right under his sternum, just like pounding away. And he was like, probably from just being so anxious to let's get it going and all that. But you knew that Iron Mike Tyson was going to be the man. And I literally, when I got out of the ring, I just stayed at the bottom of the steps. I didn't go to my seat. Probably somebody's going to sit in it anyway in that crowd. But I just sat on the bottom step. In 91 seconds, I was back in the ring.
Unbelievable.
A great moment. I'm sure you have so many stories you can tell about experiences, being with fighters. And one of your great moments, of course, is perhaps one of my favorite moments. Not a great fight, but when Big George Foreman knocked out Michael Moorer, you were the referee,
right?
And George probably lost every minute of every round until he threw that last 1-2-1-2.
Exactly.
And man, that moment was so unbelievable. And I'm sure you were really proud to be there when a 45-year-old guy became heavyweight champion of the world, and with Big George, who we all have loved for so many years.
Exactly. Well, I can tell you, Mike, that it's always been an honor, working those fights with the great champions, those legends in boxing. And I was happy to be inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, along with Mike Tyson, Julio Cesar Chavez, Costa Zoo, Nacho Berenstein. Yep. And myself. It was a great class of 2011. It's been an honor to be inducted with such grace. And I want to thank you, Mike. It's been an honor having you on the show today. I can tell you is that Mike Buffer, let's get ready to rumble. It's a word, it's a catchphrase. Don't use it because Mike will sue you in a heartbeat. Take care. We catch you guys next week. God bless, Mike.